When you're feeding a family on a low income, elegance isn't about what you can afford as much as it is about a state of mind and thinking outside of the box. Today, we're turning to the wisdom of the 1930s for a comforting meal. Navy beans and ham hocks from an old 1930s White House Cookbook. We're making handmade hot pads stitched from salvage batting and savoring the gentle rhythm of a cozy winter morning. Children painting, goats in the sunshine, and reminiscing about my grandmother, who was proof that beauty and dignity don't require a budget. Homemaking when broke requires creativity. Right now, we're not necessarily broke, but we are living in that space where every penny has purpose, where nothing goes to waste, and where resourcefulness isn't optional. So I've been looking back to my grandma's time, remembering the stories she told me and the lessons she lived by. That's when I remembered this cookbook I found at a vintage antique store. The 1935 White House Cookbook, full of recipes from an era that knew how to stretch everything. I've decided to look into cooking more from this book this year because if there's one thing the Depression era understood, it's how to make something nourishing and soul satisfying from almost nothing. And everyone knows beans are the MVP of low income cooking. This month, they've been on heavy rotation in our kitchen. In the coming weeks, I'll be sharing our black bean burgers, by the way, that are so good, you won't even miss the real thing. But today, we are making 1935 navy beans with ham hocks, simple, hearty, and exactly what our grandmothers would have served with pride. As you can see, this recipe calls for 2 quarts of white beans, soaked overnight, brought to a boil, and then cooked with a piece of salt pork, and then simmered slowly until soft, after which time we can add a tablespoonful of molasses and a teaspoonful of soda. After that, the recipe calls for the beans to be baked 1.5 hours. If you don't want to use the pork, you can just salt the beans when boiling and add a lump of butter before you put them in the oven. And this, back in the day, was supposed to serve 12 people. Now, we're not exactly experiencing a Great Depression at our house, so I threw in a couple potatoes, some bay leaves, and onions, and I totally cheated, and I did mine in the Instant Pot. If I wasn't in a hurry to get this bean soup done today for this video, I would cook it on the wood cook stove because the wood cook stove's nice, it's hot, it's going, and it cooks beans at the perfect temperature. The Instant Pot does a really good job too. The Instant Pot will cook your beans and make them very soft, perfectly soft actually. But I found that the wood cook stove also cooks them perfectly soft because it cooks them low and slow, which if you're not doing the Instant Pot, low and slow is how you wanna cook them. Now, I'm trying to get even more out of these beans and make it even more of a hearty meal. This isn't traditional, but I'm gonna add some potato to mine. I wanna add the potato just to make it more nutritious, and potatoes are very, very cheap, and they'll just add some more bulk to the soup. I think they'll make it more delicious. Around here, we don't throw away the scraps. These are some potato skins. I'm gonna cook them up and give them to the chickens. They'll provide some nice potassium. Chickens cannot have raw potato skins. They're poisonous to them, or raw potato, but they can have it cooked. On the way to the chickens, we're gonna take a visit by the goats. This is Ragnar. Isn't he a handsome fella? He is part Oberhausen and part Nubian. This little corner of my kitchen has become a little art gallery of sorts. The kids have decided this is where to display all of their beautiful art pieces that they've been creating lately, and I think it's just charming. The disco ball is discoing, the soup is done, it tastes absolutely luxurious. Highly recommend. Growing up, I had a rendition of this probably a couple times a year, and a variety of other beans throughout the rest of the year. We had a lot of beans growing up. Who else out there maybe remembers this dish, had it often, or renditions of it? I would love to hear from you in the comments. If you are looking for a simple sewing project that is as practical as it is satisfying, let me introduce you to homemade hot pads. The kind you can make for a fraction of the cost, seriously, and twice the quality of anything you can buy in the store. I do have a complete tutorial over on my Patreon, but if you watch closely here, you'll see just how beautifully simple they are to create. After making my kids' quilts for Christmas, I had all of this scrap batting left over, and I felt like this is the most perfect way to give it new life and purpose. Winter time is when I love to tackle projects like this. It helps me feel more productive and just kind of gives me a cheery boost. In the summertime with gardening and homesteading, demanding every daylight hour, there's just simply no time for things like sewing. But these quiet, cold months, they are made for sitting by the window with fabric or crocheting, transforming remnants into something useful and lovely. A hot pad sewn with your own hands from scraps you refuse to waste, that is elegant homemaking. That is making beauty from the margins. But I will tell you, if you don't have scrap fabric, you can usually find it for a fraction of the cost at fabric stores and even places like Walmart. In these scenes, I am simply measuring out some rectangles and squares because I want to use every bit of the fabric that I have here. Normally, I don't even measure, but I thought I would measure for you guys in case some of you want to try this and are new at it. Some people are more comfortable measuring. I wanted the fronts and the backs of these to be complementary but not matching. I wanted them to be just more interesting. So I'm putting the backs with the fronts that I want them with. And now it's time to cut out the batting. When you cut out the batting, if you cut it just a little bit smaller than the actual hot pad, it sews together a little bit better. If you don't, the batting has a tendency to stretch and then it's hard to see your seam, the side of your seam when you're sewing. As you can see, my batting is super duper thin. So I had to quadruple it. You can double it, triple it, quadruple it, whatever you think you're going to need for your uses. Now, if I was just doing like a table runner with this, which is another idea, another thing that you can do, I would probably just do like 2 layers of the batting. Again, this is super simple. Now, something that's so important when you're making hot pads is you never ever want to use synthetic fabrics. You need natural fiber like cotton or wool. It is really dangerous to use any other fabric like synthetic fabrics because they'll melt. Now, if you do want to find the exact fabric you see me working with here, I actually found it at Walmart. When you go to sew the edges, you want to sew them all, but you want to leave about a 3-inch opening on the side so that you can turn the hot pad right side out. After that, you definitely want to press the hot pad and all of the edges and make sure they're all turned out completely. This part can be a little tricky. There are so many different ways you can do it. I like to press the seam in and then just stitch it with my sewing machine, but some people like to slip stitch it. It can take quite a bit of work getting that hem or that seam to turn, and then you want to press it again. That's what it will look like. Ironing it well and then giving it a quick little stitch to close it up, and we're done. My little girl wanted to sew one, and she's so funny. She loves ASMR, and so she's always doing this with her fingers, tapping on things. Now, since she's a beginner sewer, I am going to pin the sides, and it is easier if you do pin them. If you're an advanced seamstress, you probably don't need to, but it does make it a little easier. And do you see why this cake cracks me up?
Okay, tell me when to go.
Go ahead.
From there, it's a good idea to put a seam down the center so that when you go to wash your hot pad, it doesn't puff up and so the batting doesn't get all discombobulated on the inside. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Tell me in the comments some of your favorite low-income affordable foods and wintertime projects.